Aloha mai kako, you are watching Hawaii Political Reporter.
And on day one, a president, if she wanted to, could instruct the DEA to do a really radical thing. And that would be to use science in determining what substances will and will not be scheduled. Because the minute science is used, marijuana is off the schedule. And the same goes for hemp, which is also a substance for which there are no bad drug effects. There are no bad health and safety effects. Yet there are very important economic benefits. Both of those substances should be legalized. Marijuana should be regulated, but in a way that does not create another tobacco monopoly, but permits small businesses to actually flourish.
Now, if anyone wants to rebut, raise your hand. You want to rebut, Rocky?
Yes. And I'm not sure it's a real rebuttal because I'm in total agreement, especially, well, on all issues that Jill raised. But hemp, really, why is that illegal? Except for those moneyed interests that control our Congress. We need to rise up as one and say, legalize industrial hemp now.
Okay. Anyone want to rebut?
No. My time isn't up yet, I think. I don't mean to quibble like the President and Romney do. That's 1 minute. 40,000 people, less than 40,000 people in prison on drug charges in 1971 when this war on drugs began. Now we have over 500,000 of our people in prisons. I would entertain as president a presidential pardon for everyone that didn't commit other crimes that's in our federal prisons because of drug offenses.
Anyone want to rebut? Remember, we have 6 questions in all. We're only finishing the second one. Anyone else want to rebut?
When I was governor of New Mexico, I met with judges in Portland, Oregon that asked to meet with me. The meeting started. I didn't know what to expect, but what they said was, hey, we're here to support you. We're here to support what you have to say, but we would like to share with you a story here that perhaps you can pass on.
Only have a minute.
Pass on to others that would let others better understand this. They said that methamphetamine really is the boogeyman drug. People that use methamphetamine do bad things. Their behavior is altered. They said, we're not suggesting, and by the way, it disparagingly falls on the poor. It's the best example we can think of a prohibition drug. It's cheap, it's easy to make, so the consequences fall disparagingly on the poor. They said, we're not suggesting the following, but if cocaine were legal, these people would be using cocaine without the negative behavioral impact. Now, what I will tell you about cocaine, and it would be wonderful if the government told the truth, cocaine puts holes in your heart. Really, people that use cocaine their entire lives die from a heart attack. Whitney Houston is the best example of somebody who uses cocaine all the time.
Okay. All right. 1 minute rebuttal. Go ahead, Virgil.
Let's be clear about my position on this. Unlike Gary, unlike Rocky, and unlike Jill, I'm not for legalizing drugs. If you want that, vote for one of them. Don't vote for me.
Okay, now, well said. We remind you that tonight's debate questions were submitted via social media, and I'm presenting them exactly as they were received. The next topic, and we'll start with this one with Virgil, concerns foreign policy. It comes from Greg Salazar of Los Angeles via Reddit. Do you think that an annual military budget of nearly $1 trillion is absolutely necessary to keep us safe? And in a broader sense, what do you think should be the role worldwide of the United States military? 2 minutes, Virgil Goode.
As I said, if I'm elected president, I'll balance the budget, and part of the cuts have to be in the Department of Defense. We cannot do, as Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan suggest, increase military funding by $2 trillion over the next decade. I support a strong defense, but we need to retrench rather than trying to be the policeman of the world. We have too many soldiers, too many troopers scattered around the world. Our bases need to be reduced around the world, not increased, and the United States should stop trying to be the overseer of the world. That will save us billions and billions of dollars.
All right, Governor Johnson.
Let me start with a premise here. We need to provide ourselves with a strong national defense. It's one of government's fundamental responsibilities. But the operative word here is defense, not offense, and not nation building. The biggest threat to our national security is the fact that we're bankrupt, that we're borrowing and we're printing money to the tune of 43 cents out of every dollar that we spend. So I am promising to submit a balanced budget to Congress in the year 2013 that would include a 43% reduction in military spending. How does that go down? Well, a 43% reduction in military spending takes us back to 2003 spending levels. It's getting ourselves out of all the military engagements that we are currently involved in. Stop with the military interventions. It's reducing the military footprint worldwide, its bases, its troops that we have stationed in Japan, in South Korea, and in Europe, its intelligence, its research and development. All of these components go into a 43% reduction when it comes to the military. We have to stop our military interventions. We have to stop with the drone strikes. We have to stop with a policy that has us with hundreds of millions of enemies to this country that but for these policies would otherwise not exist. It's a recognition that when we talk about foreign aid to other countries, it's propping up foreign dictators that are on our side as opposed to the other side. We pick winners and losers. And there are a whole lot of unintended consequences that go along with this. Right now, we're funding the Syrian insurgents, and they're made up of jihadists.
5 seconds.
Did we not learn anything in Afghanistan where we funded Osama bin Laden?
All right. Discussing military spending, Jill.
Yes, I want to agree with Gary and with Rocky, and I guess not with Virgil in this instance, to say that a foreign policy based on militarism and brute military force and wars for oil is making us less secure, not more secure. We need to cut the budget and bring the troops home. And we need to end the drone wars, not bring the drones home because they're already coming home. We need to put an end to the use of drones and actually lead, not to lead this development of a new arms race, but to lead in an international treaty and a convention to permanently ban the use of drones as a weapon of war and as a means of spying the American public. $5 trillion spent on the Afghanistan and Iraq war, thousands of American lives, hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. This has not made us more secure. What we're seeing, in fact, is the blowback against this policy, because dropping bombs on weddings and funerals, which is what drones do with an incredibly high civilian casualty rate, that is not a good way to win the hearts and minds of people in the Middle East.
30 seconds.
We need a foreign policy based on international rights, on international law, and on human rights, and on fighting climate change, which should be the war that we are all fighting, not this war for oil.
All right. And now also on the question of military spending, and then we'll have a rebuttal if anyone raises their hand and wants to. Again, we have 3 more questions coming. On military spending, Rocky.
President Eisenhower, in his last presidential address, warned this country about the military-industrial complex. When he first wrote that speech, he termed it the military-industrial congressional complex, for very good reason, because these folks vote for massive funding for completely wasteful projects like F-22 that the Department of Defense said we're never going to use it, it's outmoded. Why would we spend billions of dollars on it? And because the contractor had other contractors or subcontractors in 44 different states, and they do that very strategically, these people, the Republicans and Democrats alike, voted for additional funding. That is treason against our country when our treasure is being wasted, when we need that treasure to go toward education, jobs, and the biggest challenge facing our planet, and that is combating climate change. We need to focus on where the real public interest is rather than where those who are benefiting from this corrupt system have their stake. Now, there are two fundamentals when it comes to our engagement, military engagement, and I think our leaders have completely either forgotten it or ignoring it. No wars of aggression. If you haven't been attacked or you're not imminently to be attacked, to attack and occupy another country like we did Iraq is an illegal war of aggression under the Kellogg-Briand Pact, under the United Nations Charter, against the Nuremberg principles. At the Nuremberg Tribunal, we prosecuted and convicted people for those same crimes. And secondly, the Constitution requires that the decision whether to go to war is Congress's alone. They have the sole prerogative. It cannot be delegated to the President, as Congress has so cowardly done with the Gulf of Tonkin resolution and later the resolution for the use of force against
Anyone
Iraq
want to
and other
rebut?
nations.
You want to rebut, Virgil?
Very briefly, Rocky is correct about following the Constitution. I would not be in Syria unless Congress makes a declaration of war. We will not stay in Afghanistan if I'm elected president unless Congress makes a declaration of war. Only by going through that constitutional process can we ensure that the will of the American people is addressed when we have issues like Syria, Afghanistan, and Iran.
You want to rebut something, Gary?
Well,
okay.
Please.
It's a rebuttal question.
I was opposed to going into Iraq before we went into Iraq. I did not think there were weapons of mass destruction, and I said in 2003, if there are weapons of mass destruction, we have the military surveillance capability to see that happen, and if that happens, we have all sorts of options. But if we go into Iraq, we're going to find ourselves in a civil war to which there would be no end. Afghanistan, I thought initially that that was totally warranted. We were attacked, we attacked back, but I would argue that after having been in Afghanistan for 6 months, we wiped out al-Qaeda. That was 11 years ago. We should have gotten out of Afghanistan 11 years ago. So here we are now on Iran. The largest demonstration in the world in support of the United States after 9/11 was in Iran by over 1 million citizens that showed up in support of the United States. And we're going to bomb Iran. We're going to bomb the citizens of Iran. We're going to find ourselves with another 100 million enemies to this country that we wouldn't otherwise have.
And the question comes from Melissa Farley on Twitter. This is for the candidates, and this go-round will begin back with Jill. Where do you stand on NDAA Section 1021, the ability to detain Americans indefinitely? Where do you stand on that, and why? Jill.
It's an outrage that 1021 NDAA was ever passed to start with. It's an incredible betrayal of our civil liberties that the president has assumed dictatorial rights to put us in prison at his pleasure without charge or without trial. This is unallowable and is a basic offense against the very foundation of American liberty, and it should be repealed. And while we're at it, we must also repeal the president's interpretation of the Enforcement Act in 2001, the Military Use Act, that said that assassinations are in the power of this president. We need to put an end to assassinations. We need to put an end to the FISA Act, which retroactively legalized unwarranted wiretapping against U.S. citizens. We need to repeal the Patriot Act, and we need to stop the persecution of whistleblowers who blow the whistle on crimes by our government.
10 seconds, Jill. 10 seconds.
As Benjamin Franklin said, if we sacrifice our liberty for security, we will wind up losing both. So let's take back our liberty. That is the foundation of true security.
Rocky, question of detaining Americans indefinitely.
Well, I went to law school because I believed as deeply as one can believe in the rule of law, in justice, in the fact that our system of justice can provide for everyone. And what we have seen through the Bush years and now with President Obama has been so absolutely subversive and anti-American. There's been no more anti-American act, I think, in our history than the NDAA. And President Obama, don't be fooled about this, in 2009, he asked for the power to indefinitely detain people without charges, without a trial, without legal assistance, and without the right of habeas corpus. We are on the road toward totalitarianism, and that's not an exaggeration. Take a look at this. If one person can determine against whom and under what conditions laws passed by Congress and our Constitution are going to be applied, that spells tyranny. It's the very definition of tyranny. So what happened when President Obama came into office? He said, about our international treaties and our own domestic laws, absolutely forbidding torture. Let's forget about those war crimes and move forward and not look backwards. What about those people that committed countless federal felonies by illegally spying on American citizens? He said, let's forget about it. And he did the same thing when he was in the United States Senate, and after he'd promised just the opposite to everybody before he got the Democratic nomination, he voted for retroactive immunity, criminal immunity for the telecom companies that participated in the illegal surveillance program.
All right.
That shows such utter disregard for the rule of law. We need to demand more of our leaders, or we'll never.
Virgil,
we'll never meet the promise of our founders and our Constitution.
Virgil.
One sentence answer, Larry. If I were president, I would have vetoed NDAA.
Why can't we all be that simple? Okay, Governor?
Well, because, Larry, this is like shamelessly pitching oneself to vote for me. So I'm going to try and take advantage of shamelessly pitching myself here. I would have vetoed the National Defense Authorization Act, allowing for you and I as U.S. citizens to be arrested and detained without being charged. I think what's really significant is last December, the ACLU came out with a report card on all of the presidential candidates. And I apologize to the three others on stage that weren't in this report card. But they came out with a report card on all the presidential candidates. ACLU, a group dedicated to civil liberties, a group dedicated to the Constitution, a group dedicated to the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, a Bill of Rights. I think this is really important. 24 liberty torches was a perfect score. Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum had 0 liberty torches out of 24. Newt Gingrich had 4 liberty torches out of 24. Barack Obama had 16 liberty torches out of 24. My hero, Ron Paul, 18 liberty torches out of 24. And Gary Johnson had 21 liberty torches out of 24, something that I'm very proud of.
Okay, anybody rebuttal? I guess we all agree on that. This has been a very lively evening. You will each have 2 minutes to close. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
You got it.
We start with the way we started, or do we go roundabout?
We're actually going to go next in line to Virgil.
Okay. This is 2 minutes, closing statements. You don't have to rebut them. You can say anything you like.
Again, thanks to Free and Equal, thanks to Larry King, thanks to Gary, Rocky, and Jill. Open up the process, give broader views to Americans, and we will have a better and greater country. 4 things: that we've got to do right away. I repeat, balanced budget now, not 10 years down the road like Obama and Romney are talking about. Jobs in America for American citizens first. I am the only candidate that has advocated a near complete moratorium on green card foreign worker admissions into this country until unemployment is under 5%. It makes no sense to bring in so many foreign workers when we need jobs in America for U.S. citizens first. Thirdly, I agree with Jill on super PACs and defining speech, but I don't think you need I think it can be done with legislation with enough whereases and a sense of the House and a sense of the Senate in it. I want to see political action committees eliminated, individual donations only, full transparency, and we need to end the super PACs that are totally just about controlling federal elections. It's time for a grassroots candidate like Virgil Goode to be president, and he'll work for term limits too.
Governor?
I would not be standing here before you right now if I didn't think I could do a really good job as President of the United States. And I am basing that on the resume that I have. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I started a one-man handyman business when I was a junior in college and actually grew that business to employ over 1,000 people in Albuquerque. It's amazing what can happen when you do what you'll say you'll do and when you show up on time. It's just amazing. Now, I sold that business in 1999. Nobody lost their job. Business is doing better than ever. As governor of New Mexico, I ran completely outside of the political system. I got elected governor, Republican governor, in a state that was 2-to-1 Democrat, and made a name for myself vetoing legislation. I may have vetoed more legislation than the other 49 governors in the country combined. I vetoed 750 bills. I had thousands of line item vetoes. It made a difference when it came to billions of dollars worth of spending. It made a difference when it came to laws that would have told you or I what we could or couldn't do in the bedroom. With regard to immigration, which I think really is a hot-button issue, and it kind of highlights differences between me and everybody else, let's start off with the premise that immigration is really a good thing. Let's make it as easy as possible for somebody that wants to come into this country and work to get a work visa. Not a green card, not citizenship, but a work visa so that applicable taxes would get paid and that we would have no criminals working in this country. Look, we hear about wasted vote right now. Wasting your vote is voting for somebody that you don't believe in. That's wasting your vote. I'm asking everybody here, I'm asking everybody watching this nationwide to waste your vote on me. Vote for me, Gary Johnson, and you know what happens? I'm the next president of the United States, and I guarantee you, nobody will regret that. You'll find somebody with no quit. You'll find somebody that'll wake up every single day and take on the debates and the discussions that need to be happening in this country and aren't happening today because of a lack of leadership.
Thank you, Governor. Jill Stein. Jill, 2 minutes.
There's a famous saying from Alice Walker that the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. In fact, there are 90 million voters who are not coming out to vote in this election. That's 1 out of every 2 voters. That's twice as many as the number who will come out for Barack Obama, and twice as many as the number who will come out for Mitt Romney. Those are voters who are saying no to politics as usual and saying no to the Democratic and Republican parties. Imagine if we got out word to those 90 million voters that they actually have a variety of choices and voices in this election. And I want to focus especially on those 36 million students and young people and recent graduates who are effectively indentured servants because of the high unemployment rate and the draconian, unforgiving loans that have been customized especially for students lacking any consumer protections. If those students decided to stand up and go to the polls and come out and vote for free public higher education, for ending student debt, for bailing out the students and breaking up the banks instead of the other way around, which is what they are doing, we could turn politics in this country on its head on November 6th. I encourage you, go to my website, get the word out. There is a choice in this election to take back our democracy, to create jobs for everyone through a Green New Deal that will put an end to climate change and make wars for oil obsolete. We can do this now by standing up and making it so.
Thank you, Jill. And finally, Rocky Anderson.
Imagine if there had been a candidate included in the Obama-Romney debates to challenge our plutocracy, our government that is run by and for the benefit of monstrous corporations rather than in the interest of the people of this country. We know the Republican and Democrats have some differences, but both of them have morphed into a militarist, corporatist, anti-democratic force that has betrayed basic human and civil rights. We know that both of these major candidates have been bought and paid for. That's why neither of them stands for health care for all as in the rest of the industrialized world. It's why neither of them ever talk about breaking the stranglehold the military-industrial complex has on our government. And that's why neither of them talk about providing the essential leadership on the climate crisis, the greatest tragedy facing Earth's inhabitants. Obama and Romney have refused to discuss the corrupting influence of money flowing from Wall Street banks, from the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical industry, the fossil fuel industry, or military contractors, because they are the recipients of that corrupting money. And neither of these dominant party candidates will have called for federal protection for marriage equality. Neither of them have called for an end to poverty, an end to the insane war on drugs, or for the implementation of a WPA-like initiative that would hire millions of workers. So thank you to Christina Tobin and Larry King and Free and Equal for providing this opportunity to present democratic solutions in the public interest on which we can all work together far beyond this election.
Well, here at Free and Equal, we're a nonpartisan organization. All the donations go through great things like this and big things we're doing after the election. But we are holding a debate next Tuesday in Washington, D.C., 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So thank you, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Great pleasure being with you. Always love coming to Chicago. Thanks very much.
We the people.
For the scoop on Big Island political news, check out Tiffany Edward Hunt's Big Island Chronicle, now available in print edition and online, BigIslandChronicle.com. Coming up this week and before the election, candidates including Harry Kim, Russell Ruderman, Richard Onishi, Marlene Hapai, and others. Debates including Free and Equal's inclusive Libertarian, Green, Justice, and Constitution Party candidates. Issues and groups including Punapono Alliance, Pele Defense Fund, the Hunters Alliance, Aloha Uprising, and others. Analysis and exposés, economics and budgets, Romney and Lingle exposed, the theft of a nomination. See the full schedule at khpr.net or hawaiipoliticalreporter.org. Tune in nightly at 9 p.m.
1913, the money power of the country was taken away from the people, but it was given up in the Federal Reserve Act. The Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express.
You try a hide and destroy a freedom. You seek agenda, we know you anti-American. You come forward American Constitution. 1913, corrupt in the system. Devalue dollar, hyperinflation. The Federal Reserve, controlled by Lisa Farm. He and see you live.